Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com. Welcome to the Sharkpreneur podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. Today, I have the good fortune to be interviewing Angel Vossough from BetterAI and Vino Voss. Angel, thanks so much for joining us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Seth, for having me.
You are welcome. Let's go back in time a little bit. Can you share with us a little bit about your journey from being a network engineer at Cisco to co-founding BetterAI?
Sure. So I joined Cisco I worked at Cisco for more than a decade as a network engineer. And while I was at Cisco as a network engineer, I was the only woman in my team. And Cisco was trying to recruit more women, and they sent me to all these recruiting and conferences to attract more women to become a network engineer. And I firsthand really experienced the difficulty to do that and learn more about how difficult it is to find women, especially in this field. And unfortunately, 57% of women in tech leave their job in mid-career, which is a high number. So it's like attraction is one problem, but the other problem is how do you retain women in workforce in tech? So that was a very interesting problem, which led me start my first startup called DiverseUp, which was a benefit corp to help attract and retain women in tech and provide transparency. Because, every year you see Forbes publishes articles about top female-friendly companies. But to me, the question is, what does female-friendly really mean? Because as women, we have very dynamic lives. So like in 20s, you probably want to go up the corporate ladder. 30s, you probably want to care more about maternity leave and childcare, and probably 40s and 50s could be different. So our lives is very dynamic. So there's no model of one model fits all. So that was the idea behind DiverseUp, so that you can do the sort of matchmaking where you are in your life, and you can choose what companies, what a career you really want to choose. And after I started, I learned more because I was always fascinated with statistics, big data, and I felt like, there's this opportunity to go back to school. So I applied for my second master's degree in data science at UC Berkeley. So mid-career, I went back to school, which was a very interesting experience. After all this experience, you go back and you start learning the new concepts as an old software engineer. And my capstone project was how do you do the wine selection and search? Because to me, it's a very interesting data science problem, because wine is a very subjective thing. If you think about it, if you go on Amazon, you can, let's say you want to buy a table. You have the specification, this is the, width, and these are the dimensions. And you look at the reviews and you choose the table. But when it comes to wine, the complexity of it is how do you really decide? So for example, first of all, the reviews are very subjective. And let's say if I'm a Pinot Noir person, and no matter what, is this Cabernet Sauvignon from Bordeaux is an amazing wine, I'm not going to like it. So how do you decide? So the there is a very challenging problem to solve. That's why nobody has done it at this scale before. And wine is a very traditional, has a very traditional market. And then how do you, the fact that you can apply AI to this traditional market was very fascinating to me. So we started, our specialty was how do you use AI, more specifically natural language processing, to use that to do search and recommendation. And one of the most interesting applications was wine, which was my capstone project, which led to finding the new startup Vinovas. And the main product we have is, BetterAI, and the main product we have is Vinovas.
Which, I mean, it's a fascinating journey. If it hasn't already, it should probably be in a book somewhere. We will dive into that in a minute. What is the mission of BetterAI, and how does it differentiate itself in the crowded AI market?
Sure. So, one of the, for example, challenges with search is, for example, if you go to Google, you do the search based on title. But what AI and natural language processing trying to do and enhances the current search domain is you want to understand the user intent, right? Based on my history, how do I ask the questions? Then you can really understand it. So, for example, in the Vinovas project that we started, wine could be a very intimidating topic. If you don't speak French and you don't know, like you're not a wine connoisseur, you go to a wine shop or you go to a restaurant, how do you decide what wine to order? But one of the examples I can give you is, let's say I'm going to go to a birthday party. I want to get a nice wine for my friend. The user intent in search is extremely important. So I can ask, I'm looking for a red wine that goes well, let's say food pairing, goes well with beef, because I want to take it to my boss's 50th birthday, right? So it's basically understand that query. While if you put it on at Google or like the current search engine, traditional search engines, they don't really understand that. And so we started this project before ChatGPT, but the challenge with this general large language model is they are very generic. So everything is trained based on general information. And what you need to do is things are becoming, like with generative AI, are very vertical. If you want to have a better answer and avoid hallucination, you really need to train your data based on very specific data sets.
So BetterAI developed Vinovas. How does the AI algorithm work to select wine? How do you disrupt that $39 billion market?
So it was a very interesting journey. So I started this, the company started with a bunch of AI researchers, including me, and then software engineers. And we thought, okay, with the data out there, we can really figure this out. And we use the reviews, and then we have the data out there, and we can figure this out. But soon we figure out, because we're not wine experts, it's almost impossible. So we now have about 15 wine experts all around the world, mainly in Europe, that are training our machine learning models to really teach and then help the models to understand. It's a very complex algorithms, but based on that, they're learning of like how the wine really works. And everybody has a different specialty, different region, because again, wine has the food pairing part of it is challenging. Then you have more than 3,000 type of grapes. You have all these regions, sub-regions. And as you mentioned, it's a huge market. And you really need to work with wine experts to understand the domain.
That makes a lot of sense. How does Vinovas monetize?
So our goal is, this started as Vinovas started as an academic project. When we started, we really wanted to solve this wine problem because the goal was to make wine accessible for all. And then you can search it. It's very complex problem and decision-making. So the goal is simplify the decision-making when it comes to selecting wine, right? Which right now is a huge problem. So we're going to work with people that are not expert like me, like beginners or connoisseur, to enable them to do this discovery or wine discovery. And on the other hand, we're going to work with wine shops and wineries to just display their wines. And really the goal is just simplify the search process. And when it comes to search, because search is extremely complex, I think solving a big problem will bring customers.
Absolutely. And are you monetizing this by getting affiliate commissions on the wine that gets sold? Are you selling advertising? Are you selling the data on people's wine selections? Are people paying to use your wine selector? How does that work?
So we're going to have a subscription fee. I'm a big fan of ethical AI. Just never sell the customer data. It's just definitely not to do it. And I think subscription fee is going to be our model, and maybe later on do the advertising. We're on a very early stage of our product. We hopefully going to have our product out there, our app out there by end of July. And basically this is, and I think because people are going to interact, and then we got to bring traffic, the first 100,000 users, then we can go from there.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. You need some critical mass for sure. So you developed a process to build an AI engine that would assist in a subjective, very challenging decision-making process. Could you use that exact same process on other things besides wine?
For sure. I think we can definitely do that, because I think if we can solve wine, we can solve many, many things, because the subjectivity of wine is extremely hard. If you can solve wine, for example, you can solve or help with like skincare, because you can just go and say, okay, I have this type of skin, I'm looking for this, what, because there's so many, when it comes to skincare, there's so many products out there. It's extremely difficult. How does this decision process work, right? This is I think that's fascinating, and it's going to help a lot of people, because we are going towards not personalization, we're going towards a hyper personalization, and these applications can truly make a difference.
Absolutely. As a co-founder of an AI company, what principles are you following in terms of navigating both the challenges and opportunities that AI presents?
So as I mentioned earlier, I think it's just having regulation and ethical AI is really important, like user privacy, data privacy. I mean, all of these are extremely important, especially it just goes to like a more critical platform, like related to finance, related to health. How do you really do that? That should be on top of the list of founders of AI companies, because as you expand that, if you don't have it, you don't have the foundation, makes it very difficult to add later on. And you always need to create a structure that is like privacy, user privacy, all of them are on top of your list, and making sure of, you don't violate any of those.
Absolutely. For someone who was looking to, we've all, since ChatGPT took off, we've all been dabbling in AI to some certain extent. What advice would you offer an entrepreneur or a business owner looking to kind of get ahead of the curve and really use AI to make a difference in their business?
Well, that's a very good question, because the AI, as we expanding, the cost of hardware is becoming more and more difficult for, especially for startups, because they don't have a like big funding when they start. So a lot of startups, the way they can stay competitive is just being focused on solving a problem that is a real problem. And just as I mentioned, being specialized in one thing, it makes a huge difference, because then you have the advantage of like over a big corporate that they have bureaucracy, the process is slow, so you can just specialize in one thing and do it right. As that's very important. The talent in startup is the biggest thing. My policy is I'll just hire smarter people than me, so the company just the workforce and the talent makes a huge difference, and really invest on them. And also one advantage is startups can be really agile. being flexible, because you can adapt and then make change really quickly. One of the challenge for us is like every day you wake up, there's some like interesting AI company. So how do you stay competitive? So that means you have to be fast in changing your processes, adapt, and then keep going. And being able to collaborate with have partnership, collaborate with bigger companies, all of that makes a huge difference. And the last thing I would suggest is continuous learning and just training your employees, and welcome any ideas, especially in startups. It's very dynamic, and we thrive on interesting ideas. And don't get attached to your original ideas too much, because like things changes. And as a founder of startup, I know you have to adapt and keep going. But if you get attached to like fixed idea, that's the recipe for disaster. So just make sure you are flexible.
Awesome. For our folks watching and listening who want to learn more about Vino Voss and BetterAI, where is the best place for us to send them?
So you can go to vinovoss.com, and by end of July, we have our app coming out. It's going to be a great surprise for everybody, because then you can technically talk to our virtual sommelier.
All right. Well, this has been Seth Greene with Angel Vossough from BetterAI and Vino Voss. Angel, thanks so much for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. We will talk to you or see you next time.
Why do so many businesses struggle while others seem to explode overnight? Do you wish you had the secret to this type of exponential growth? Now, I've scaled more than 20 businesses to over $100 million, and it's not just luck. In my new book with Mark Tim, Mentor to Millions, you'll learn the repeatable framework I use in all my business ventures for massive success. Order at kevinmentor.com and get over $1,000 in bonuses. Head to kevinmentor.com.